When we first moved into our new house, I kept thinking I'd hear someone walking around the house while I was alone at night. It's a flood zone, so the house is on stilts, and you can hear footsteps when anyone walks across the floor. Of course, this is Texas, so I just grabbed my handgun to go see if someone had come in. Also, my mother-in-law has a key, and whenever she drops in and leaves things for the family, she sometimes doesn't lock the door. I kept feeling like I was going to walk into a room and someone would just be there. I felt like I was being watched all day for a few days. My husband didn't think anything of it, and one night, he jumped out of bed, grabbed his handgun, and started going through the house, slamming all the doors wide open. He said he heard banging in the kitchen like someone was going through the pantry. He was adamant he had heard someone. But still, nothing. The doors were still locked. My niece got home from her grandmother's house, and a few nights later, asked if she could sleep on our cot in our room. She's a teenager, not a small kid, so I asked her what was wrong. She didn't want to tell us because apparently we wouldn't believe her. She just said that she didn't want to be alone. She said that she heard banging in the kitchen, and whenever she heard that, she would see a man in the window of her room, apparently, so she basically came to us. We let her stay, and the next day, we were all a little uneasy. My husband, a notorious non-believer in the paranormal, came in looking shaken and said he had closed my niece's door after bringing her laundry into the room, and a man had been smiling at him in the window. The windows of the house are almost 20 feet in the air because of the stilts the house sits on. I grew up in the middle of the woods in Louisiana. Our closest neighbor was 20 miles away. Our house was on a hill and at the very bottom of a creek that went through the woods for miles and miles. My grandfather would always tell us that there were people living in the woods, crazy, inbred folks, but I always assumed that he was just trying to creep us out. So one night, when I was like 8 years old, I sat in the living room watching Pearl Harbor. My father comes into the living room and tells me not to move, that he heard footsteps and the black door slammed shut on his way to the bathroom. He thinks someone was in the house, and that he scared them off when he walked down the hallway to the bathroom. So he leaves the house, leaving the front door wide open, which scared the shit out of me. I paused the movie and just listened to silence for a couple of minutes. And of course, the guy is still inside. I'm staring out the doorway to the living room and see the top of a head peek around the corner, a head with a white sheet over it, cut and tied at the neck. I'm paralyzed, and even if I wanted to run, there'd be nowhere to go but towards this creepy-ass dude. He just stares at me for what feels like forever before he leaves towards the back of the house. The black door slams again. I just sit there and start crying until my father comes back inside. My dad tells me that as he rounded the corner to the back of the house, he caught the man leaving out the back door. The guy sees my dad and books it down the hill. Then, there's a gunshot. According to my dad, my grandfather had been sitting on this porch right next door and saw the guy walking toward our house. So he grabbed his gun and got back outside in time to see the guy running down the hill and shot the dude in the leg. The guy fell, then got back up again. Before my grandfather could take another shot, he disappeared into the woods. By the time the cops show up, he's already gone. They search, but can't find the guy. They do find a rundown sort of shack a mile or so into the woods, filled with nothing but pots and pans. But they never were able to catch the guy, which still freaks me out. Thankfully, he never came back, and I don't ever want to see him again. I used to live out in the middle of nowhere in Australia, nothing but desert outside. Our nearest neighbors were like 10 kilometers away. Our place was at the end of a long dirt road with only our house on it. So no one came down there unless they were specifically there to visit us. I was taking a bath one night, look up and see a man's face staring at me through the window. I freaked the fuck out, got out of the bathroom, put my robe on, and told my parents what had happened. They said that I probably just imagined it, especially since that window was so high up, no one could reach it from the outside. I made my dad go look out there, and yeah, someone had gone to our shed, which was like 500 meters away from the house, got some wooden pallets, stacked them up, and peeped through my window. If it were a random paper in an easier accessible location like a suburb, it would have weirded me out a little bit, but then I would have gotten over it. but the amount of work this guy had to do makes me remember him to this day. And one thing that always makes me wonder is that how the hell did he get out there with no car? Did he just live on our property or nearby in a bush somewhere? I still don't know.